Mock Draft 2.0 breakdown right now on Jetcast. What is going on, Jet fans? It is Mock Draft 2.0 season. We released my second mock draft of the season last week. I know there was a lot of controversy in my first mock draft, taking Smith, the edge rusher out of Georgia in the first round. I truly believe he's probably the best edge rusher in this draft. He's explosive. 4.39 speed coming off the edge. I mean, the guy is an absolute blitzer coming off the edge. But let's get into 2.0. I'm trying to be a little bit more realistic here, and we'll break it down live right here, and I'll give you the reasons why I chose the players that I did and what impact they could have on us in the 2023 season and beyond. So let's get right into it. With the first pick, I actually have us trading down with the Detroit Lions, and I think this makes a lot of sense if I'm able to explain it the right way. The Lions just lost Jeff Okudah in free agency. He's clearly a first-round bust. Everybody knows it. So if they want the pick of the litter, there's probably 3 top cornerbacks in this draft, and I think Witherspoon's probably right up there at the top. And they might not all be there. They might not get the pick of the litter when it comes down to 18. So in my mock draft, I have them trading up to 13 right here, as you can see. They trade right up to 13. And they also give us 143, which is their third round pick, and we give them in turn, they give us in turn 18 and 81. So we get their third round pick, and we're giving them a fifth and number 13. So they trade up, we're able to trade back, get that third round pick that we don't have in this year's draft. And with that 18th overall pick, I have us taking Darnell Wright. He's a 6'5" tackle out of Tennessee, 333 pounds. The guy's an absolute run mauler. Go watch his film. I watched a ton of it, and I can't agree more with Chris Sims. Chris Sims has him as their number 1 rated tackle in this draft. He's known for being versatile. He played 13 games at left tackle. He played 2 games at the right guard position and 27 games at the right tackle position. And we all know on our offensive line, we have injuries all the time. So having a guy that is able to move from right tackle, play a little bit of left tackle. We saw it last year when the Jets moved Elijah Vera-Tucker from right guard to right tackle. It worked wonders for this team because at the end of the day, Max Mitchell had the blood clot issue, so getting a guy like Wright, he's an instant plug and play and should be our right tackle for the next decade. Let's go over some of the positives and the negatives before we get to our next pick. He's an overpowering run blocker. He's able to get to the next level. He could play all the positions as we just said, and he was absolutely dominant at the Senior Bowl. And that's one thing that I think people take a little bit lightly, but I don't. We saw what the Jets valued last year in the Senior Bowl. They got Jermaine Johnson. They loved him. He was the most dominant player at the Senior Bowl, and we subsequently moved up into the first round again last year to pick him. He's an average pass blocker right now. We've seen 100 tackles throughout the years. They're able to develop that pass blocking, and when you stick him next to a guy like Elijah Vera-Tucker, who's already an all-pro talent on this team, it will only excel Darnell into that next stratosphere. So let's keep it going. Overall, this is what Chris Sims said. Number one lineman in the draft for him. He loves his footwork, the power. He's got a great anchor. He's the absolute run mauler. That's exactly what he is. And he fits right along in this offensive line because if you're looking with our offensive line, Mekhi Becton, run mauler. Vera-Tucker, run mauler. And believe it or not, if Laken Tomlinson's able to go back to his San Francisco 2021 season and returns to that form, we could have an absolute dominant offensive line. And I know a lot of people are saying, we should be going center. But for me, there's nobody worth the first round pick right now at center. And if I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm trying to win a Super Bowl this year, I don't know if I want a rookie center calling out protections on the offensive line. I look for more of a guy like Ben Jones or Connor McGovern to re-sign here and have that veteran presence at the center position. But let's keep it going. 42. I love this kid. Defensive tackle, Brian Breesy, 6'5.5", 298, out of Clemson. The kid is a monster for his size. Last year, 15 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks at the defensive tackle position. I think that's one thing that we've missed on this team. We constantly see time and time again, teams are just double teaming Quinnen Williams up the middle. There's one thing this kid did constantly at Clemson was everybody did it. They double teamed him, and he was able to beat it a majority of the time. And adding a guy like that next to Quinnen Williams will not only allow Quinnen Williams to flourish, but it'll also stop a lot of teams from chipping with tight ends on the outside, because you can only have so many people in the box to protect their quarterback. So I love this kid coming out. 22 bench presses at the NFL Combine. Like I said, he takes on double teams. He's very smart and he's very quick with his hands. And one thing that everybody says, he's super athletic for his build, for the size of his build. You know, some of the bad things, he suffered a torn ACL in 2021 and has shoulder surgery in 2022. I mean, it is what it is. He bounced back in 2022, so I'm not too worried about that ACL. He played really well with it afterwards. If he didn't have that ACL, he's probably going in the first round. He needs to work on his pass rushing move. He's known for being a pretty damn good bull rusher. Maybe he could get with that defensive line and progress like JFM has with us and learn some of those new pass rushing moves. He also loses his gap leverage at times, meaning sometimes he's a little too over aggressive, but that happens a lot with younger linemen. He'll be in the rotation. I expect him to get a lot of Sheldon Rankin snaps if we're able to grab him in the second round. We see how much depth we're going to need on this defensive line, and we are very lean in it, in my opinion, right now, especially on the interior. So adding a guy like Breesy will absolutely not only fill a need, but the guy I think has the potential to start immediately. So overall with him, Breesy should be able to start on any team that drafts him in the NFL, of course, as soon as he gains NFL experience, and I expect him to slide right into the D2 tackle position next to Quinnen Williams. So his pro comparison for me, Ndamukong Suh. That excellent bull rush up the middle. He's very stout on his feet. He very rarely gets pushed back, and like Suh did early in his career, he's what goes against double teams all day long. So let's keep moving along. We have 43 going in the Aaron Rodgers trade. So now, because we move back with the Detroit Lions, we're back on the clock in the third round at pick number 81. And pick number 81, one of my favorite players in this draft. I hope that he would be there for us. I'm not too sure. A lot of people have him going in the low to mid 70s. I'm hoping he drops. People drop every single year. The Clemson linebacker, super athlete, Trenton Simpson. He's 6'2", 235, plays at crazy sideline to sideline. Wait till you see somebody's stats coming up. He's a third-year player. He'd be the third player chosen in this mock draft. He was a top 20 overall recruit, period, coming out of college, which was great. He recorded 72 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks in 2022. And he also recorded 3 pass breakups. Let's go through some of the positives and negatives with him, because I actually love him, the sideline to sideline speed. He has got a good ability to pre-diagnose plays. We saw him do that at Clemson when he came out. And that's one thing that, that we pride ourselves on in this defense. We have crazy speed as it is with Quincy Williams. We have, but I want us to be able to play smarter. We've seen a lot of mental errors last year, especially in that Detroit game. That keeps popping up in my head. A lot of people seen Mosley chasing the tight end in the fourth quarter. That was that giant 60-yard play that we gave up. But believe it or not, that was Quincy Williams' guy. But Mosley noticed that Quincy made a mistake and tried to make up for it, but he was too late. So having those guys that have, the it factor in their head. He's got pretty damn good block shedding ability. He's got elite react skills, and he's an explosive blitzer off the edge. And that's one thing I know we don't do a ton on this defense, but maybe that's a wrinkle that we could add this year. We didn't have a ton of linebackers last year that are known for blitzing, that instinctual blitzing, especially up the A and B gaps right off the middle. So I wouldn't be surprised you bring a guy like Simpson in here, and maybe that expands the defense and will give a different kind of wrinkle. One thing that he suffered last year, he got easily taken away in the wash, and some of that can be improved with angles. But, Overall, let's get to overall. The kid ran a 4.43 in the 40-yard dash. A 4.43 at his size. You don't really see that in the NFL level. He's got that elite speed. He projects to be a day one starter, and that's one thing that's so critical. Last year, we saw us draft Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, all day one starters for this team, and including Max Mitchell, who had to step up right away. So he played pretty well. I expect Jeremy Ruckert to step up in year two as well. We saw him play pretty well in that last game of the year, so hopefully that carries over into this year. So let's keep going. His pro comparison, Devin White. That speed, you can't teach speed, and that's one thing that we constantly go through in these mock drafts. So let's keep it going. In the fourth round, pick 112. One of my other favorite pick is Jair Brown, the safety out of Penn State Junior, 5'11", 203. This kid was known to be a bull hawk in college. And that's one thing as Jet fans we all know that we have been missing for how many years. We had Jim Leonard, we had Ed Reed at the end of his career, but we don't have a true free safety. And this is one of those rare picks I feel in the fourth round. He might be able to compete enough to be a day one starter. That's how highly I think that high I think of this kid. He was actually a former transfer, I believe. He initially played at Lackawanna College. He earned first team All-Pro, All-American that year. Look at these stats. Broke out at Penn State in 2021. He was third team All-Big Ten. He had 6 interceptions, 72 tackles, and 13 starts. Think about that really quick. And in 2022, he didn't disappoint. Quarterbacks knew that he was out there. They threw at him less. He still earned team MVP in 2022. He was third team All-Big Ten again, 74 tackles, 7 of those for loss, 4.5 sacks, so he's no stranger to blitzing, and 4 interceptions in 13 games. So, he earned MVP in the Rose Bowl. This kid is a stud, and I'm shocked that so many people have him down in the draft. Maybe it's because he's only 5'11", 203. They might not think that he could cover tight ends at the NFL level. But for me, this kid, plug and play right away, free safety. I know we got Clark and we have Whitehead. I wouldn't be surprised if Whitehead restructures his contract or is cut, but for me, Clark is not a free safety. We watched how poorly he played against the Dolphins last year. I know the weapons the Dolphins have, but at the end of the day, for me, he's not the free safety. So let's go for it overall positives. He's had 10 interceptions in 26 games. Great. He's great at finding the hole and blitzing, can easily play free safety as a center fielder at the next level. He's also a pure leader. That's one thing that his teammates said about him was he's the kind of guy that you want to go to war with. Now, earlier I wrote up, I can't believe he's falling to the fourth round. I really think his tape speaks is probably a second rounder, but I think the combine kind of hurt him. 4.65, 40-yard dash, lacks that elite speed. Maybe he gambles a little too much in college, but you know what? That's something that at the pro level you can learn, you can grow into. So overall with him, for me, he's a day 2 steal. Legitimate free safety at the next level. I think by week 8 he would be the starter on our team without a doubt. So let's keep it going on. Pro comparison for him, Harrison Smith. I see so many similar traits. Harrison Smith, the ultimate center fielder. Not great speed, but great at reading quarterbacks. Great at seeing the play pre-snap, and that's one thing I love about Brown. So let's keep it going. And in the 6th round, with the final pick in our draft, we got Jeremiah Martin. He's the 6'4 senior, 260 out of Washington. He's an edge rusher. He's known for his bull rush. He doesn't have any great moves off the end. He's not crazy explosive, but one thing that we heard Robert Saleh said, edge rushers don't grow on trees. So I fully expect Bryce Huff to potentially be gone after this season. So having somebody there that's a project that you could work on potentially, going into the following year. In 2022, he had 8.5 sacks, so that's something to look as a positive too. He had an absolute crazy bull rush move in college, but he didn't really have any counters. He's got the ideal size for a 4.3 edge rusher. He excels in pushing tackles into the backfield. That's something you saw on his tape constantly. He always seemed to overpower the tackle that was in front of him. He projects to be a backup edge rusher, but hell, Bryce Huff did too, and now look at him now. So we've seen what this coaching staff has been able to do. So overall, Martin's pretty much, he's a project. He'll probably play on special teams the first year, might get bounced back and forth from the practice squad, but he supplies us that depth at the most important position on our defense, and that is, edge rusher. And my pro comparison for him, when I see a lot of tape, I see a lot of Henry Anderson in this kid. So hopefully you like the 2.0. Feel free to comment below. Might do a 3.0 before the season starts, before the draft, but I really like this draft right now. If we're able to make a trade and drop back and still get a top 3 offensive lineman, and most mock drafts that I do, those top 2 offensive linemen, Skoronski and Paris Johnson, are already off the board, and we know one thing about great GMs, Joe Douglas is not going to reach. So if anything, I could see Broderick Jones still on the board potentially at 13. Maybe Douglas goes there, but Darnell Wright is projected to be a dominant right tackle in this draft for years to come, 10 years plus, and having him and Elijah Vera-Tucker clearing the way for Breece Hall, Michael Carter Jr., and potentially maybe they draft a running back this year. But let us know what you think in the comment section below. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Until next time, go Jets.